So we will go ahead and call this Planning Commission meeting to order. Could we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. Inez, may we have a roll call, please?
Okay. Chair Aaron Todd,
Present?
Vice Chair Cameron Carizales,
Present.
Commissioner Gary Cushing,
Present.
Commissioner Jamie Labor,
Present.
Commissioner Miguel Magallanes.
Present.
All right, thank you. We're going to go ahead and move on to item number 4, the oral communications. This is the opportunity for citizen presentations or comments not related to the agenda items, but within the responsibility of the Fillmore Planning Commission. Is there anybody from the public that has any questions or? No? Perfect. Okay, we'll move on to item 5. 5A, the meeting minutes from the June 21st, 2023 regular Planning Commission meeting. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved, Gary Cushing.
Okay, there's one
Second.
and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, perfect. We'll move on to item number 6, the public hearings. Item 6A is the consideration of a resolution recommending zone ordinance amendment 23-01, ordinance 23-3951 to amend Fillmore Municipal Code section 6.04.0417 to update density bonus standards for consistency with state law and finding of CEQA exemption. There is a speaker or a speaker card that I have for this. So is this where we would open that?
Yeah, typically what we would do is have a staff presentation
Okay.
on the ordinance. What the staff recommendation on this item is going to be tonight is to continue it to the next Planning Commission meeting in October. The ordinance document, which sort of redlined the proposed changes to the municipal code, was inadvertently not included in the packet. So we wanted to include that in the packet, make sure the Planning Commission had a chance to see that.
Okay.
It should have been an attachment to the resolution, but it was left off.
Okay.
I understand that there's a public speaker here, though. So following my brief presentation now, what I would suggest is that the Planning Commission open up the public hearing, allow the speaker to make their comment, so that comment can be included on the record, and then continue the public hearing to the next Planning Commission meeting in October.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for the clarification on that. So we will go ahead and open up the public hearing for this item. And I have a speaker card from Kathleen Briggs.
Hello, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. I'm Kathleen Briggs, native of Fillmore. I'm also an architecture historian. I live at 523 Saratoga Street here in Fillmore. One of these new builds already has been tried and badly done on Bard Street side, but it's a regular street from Saratoga Street. The new build is been inserted into the existing lot. There needs to be more scrutiny and specs than the first structure already on properties, especially if it's near or across the street from a declared historic landmark. And ambiance has an effect on environment. Density and size sure can contribute versus an established pastoral neighborhood. Things to consider for specs for the ordinance: setbacks, so it doesn't look like the new structure is sitting on the sidewalk. Wall in front doesn't create a compound-looking atmosphere. And the new annex build is not bigger than the existing house, so that there's an over-impact. Raised lot for the structure was not compatible to other houses on the block. Also, there's a color blend issue, and even the new garage door is making a statement. Also, there needs to be a right design for the kind of house. The existing garage, vintage slip flap, was taken off. The new build should conform to what was already there, and poor representation of a general design of 1930s, 1950s houses, not a plastered vision. Trying to update 1930, 1950 existing utilities on the established street for one new annex build. Does it fit? Is it adaptable? There's no extra parking. A notice to the neighbors regarding design and impeding of of parking, access to neighbor driveways, and street blockage during the construction. Thank you.
Thank you. And that is all of the speaker cards that I have for this item, so we can go ahead and close.
So what the recommendation would be to continue the public hearing to the October meeting. So the Planning Commission would be making a motion to continue to the, looks like October 18th.
October 18th.
Next Planning Commission meeting.
Okay.
So that would be the recommended motion.
Okay. So I'll make a motion to continue item 6A to the October 18th, 2023 regularly scheduled Planning Commission meeting.
I second that.
Okay, we have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Thank you, Michael, for the help with that. And we will move on to item 6B. This is going to be consideration of vesting tentative tract map number 6053 for creation of 134 parcels for residential development. Development permit number 20-04 for the development of 133 family homes known as Creekside, and CEQA exemption under CEQA guidelines 15182C and government code 65457.
Good evening, Chair and Planning Commission and City of Fillmore. Brian McCarthy, and I've been working with the applicant on this project. It's a Creekside residential development. It includes really two basic entitlements, the development permit and the vesting tentative tract map. You might remember from our last meeting, we were still processing a tentative tract map. They've now proceeded along the vesting line, which provides more details. And so some of those details will be called out here tonight, and then we'll decide at the end whether you want to move on to Planning Commission or to City Council to make a decision on the project, or if you would want the project to come back to you if you have additional input. The project is located in the North Fillmore area. It's in the North Fillmore specific plan area. It has Good Enough Road on the east side, and it's bounded by Sespe Creek on the west side. To the south is a residential subdivision, Amron or Nove, who builds the streetlight poles you may know of, and B Street is the street that runs perpendicular there into the project. The general plan zoning, as I mentioned, is a North Fillmore specific plan, and that calls for residential exclusive for this particular property, so you can only build residential. The vesting tentative tract map will divide the property. You can see it's a total of 3 parcels that will be merged and built with 134 lots for single-family homes, and then 133 will actually be constructed at this time. The 4th lot is the estate lot, which is about 0.6 acres, and that will remain undeveloped. It will probably be a custom lot at some point in time. It also includes open space for dual purposes with drainage control, roads, public improvements, and a bicycle path. The vesting map is consistent with the Subdivision Map Act, and as I mentioned, it went through a more detailed review of the improvement plans. Our city engineering department reviewed all of those plans. It includes roads, sewers, water, storm drain, various other components, and they have determined that it's preliminarily sufficient, and they'll move on to the final stage. This is the vesting map here. It's a little hard to read because of the scale. In total, just a summary, it's 29.53 acres. They're getting a density, which is the amount of housing per acre, at 4.54 dwelling units per acre, and that's consistent with the North Fillmore specific plan. That density is also consistent with Measure I. Measure I was passed by the voters back in 2008, and Measure I reduced the density on these properties up here. Originally, the whole North Fillmore specific plan had 750 to 800 units approved, and a CEQA environmental impact report assumed impacts at that intensity of development. Measure I, however, reduced the density down to 350 homes total, and all 350 of those homes are to be single-family homes. The project includes green and open spaces totaling 3.95 acres, streets, improvements to Good Enough Road, lots that range from 5,000 square feet to north of 12,000 square feet. The entrance in red down there is B Street, and on the north side, the secondary access is going to be Good Enough Road. Amenities on the site, these are shown on your landscape plan primarily, included in your packet. Open space, bike paths, bike path improvement on Good Enough Road. A 10-foot wide dedicated bike path will cross an off-site lot. See if I can find that here. That'll cross this other lot, what's called D1, and that'll get you access all the way out to Good Enough Road from the project, so the bike path will loop through, and that's shown in the landscape plan. Go back to that. There's emergency road access from B Street to the levee, so fire trucks can access the levee for fire protection. There'll be restrictions also along the backside for fire protection to help provide that defensible space for the fire department in the event that a fire is moving toward the east from San Cayetano. And all of those open spaces and common areas will be HOA maintained. The only thing that's not HOA maintained will be the streetlights. So the city will be making sure the streetlights are on. Everything else will be maintained by the HOA. Open space, parks, parkways. Civil improvements, again, include streets throughout, stormwater detention, sewer access easements. This is the landscape plan that really helps to illustrate how the site is going to lay out. And since our last meeting, a lot more details have been added to the landscape plan. So in your packet, you'll see what the materials are going to be, and it calls out the various trailhead features and the connections of the bike path as they cross B Street. And then down at the south part in that basin, or I should say the east part, the orientation's a little weird here because in order to make it fit, the north is actually to the right. The west is to the top. So on the south, where that basin is, that bike path will now extend out all the way to Good Enough Road. And there will also be opportunities for bikes to come in and connect to the bike path on Good Enough Road that's to the north of the project. There's benching, shaded areas, stone decorative features. There's also benching on this knuckle in the street here. Since the site plan or the landscape plan was developed, the applicant has read the staff report, and as of yesterday, they came in and met with me, and they've identified some potential other opportunities that will alleviate a lot of the comments in the staff report. One of those is illustrated here. This is a site plan with added amenities. Those yellow circles are going to be designated for additional public gathering spaces between the lots. So those lots will have easements on them that will allow public access. And again, that will include benching, gathering, perhaps it will be gathering near mailboxes and things like that. So there'll be additions to the acreage that we count toward the open space provided for the project. So the total open space inside amenity features will exceed the North Fillmore specific plan once it's all said and done. So they're working on the final improvement for this, but this gives you an idea of some changes that have come in. This is the architectural site plan. It's mostly the same as what you've seen before. There have been some slight changes in the numbers, a little bit of shifting in the plan types, but overall generally consistent with what you've seen. I threw in some graphics out of the North Fillmore specific plan. This was what was anticipated or what was envisioned at that time. So this shows the various concepts of garages not being prominent features, various roof forms, 360-degree architecture, or at least architecture that wraps a corner, and some of the different architecturals and styles and features. So these are in the North Fillmore specific plan, and this kind of gives you an idea of what was envisioned by staff, or by the public, I should say, when that plan was adopted. So you're reviewing this project in accordance with the North Fillmore specific plan. That's really the governing document. Overall summary of the lots, there's a total of 5 plans. There's a total of 4 different architectural styles: Spanish bungalow, farmhouse, modern. The numbers of units shifted slightly, as I mentioned, between the Plan 1, the Plan 3, and the Plan 5. Sizes stayed pretty much the same. And at the bottom is a general overview of what the elevations will look like. And another view of the elevations from the rear. And at the bottom is a side cross-section, what the street scene will look like, with the levee on the far left. They made some revisions since yesterday on the elevations. That's the paramount items are listed here. They're going to add second floor decks, as we discussed, around all of the perimeter lots. So that will be not only along Sespe, that will allow the rear views of San Cayetano. There'll also be balconies along the lots that back up to the open space, and there'll be balconies on the lots that back up to Good Enough Road. They also made some changes in the elevations, and their architect is here. He'll go over that in more detail with you. Those are recent changes, again, addressing some of the issues raised in the staff report. This is going back over some of the comments that we had originally on the architectural style, and in there we bulleted some of the issues that the North Fillmore specific plan calls for. So some of the judgment you'll be using to review the project are encapsulated within those bullets. So staff identified some things that we felt maybe were underrepresented, or maybe they could have taken another crack at. Obviously, they're limited a little bit by lot size. This is a Mission Spanish style. This is the image in the North Fillmore specific plan. This is the revised version of the Spanish. And again, the architect will go over it a bit more, but they did arch the windows because those are fixed windows. They could be arched and they will be recessed. So that'll give a little more authentic Spanish style or a Spanish look to it. And they added that extra roof line over the garage. This is the bungalow. So this is the same elevation that you saw before, and staff presented some of the items that we felt, we could pay attention to, or perhaps they could sharpen their pencil a little bit more and see if we could get a little bit more out of these designs. This is the farmhouse. 5 different versions of the farmhouse. Plan 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's also called the agrarian style in the North Fillmore specific plan. These are the prominent features of the agrarian style. This is an example of when you look at this, you see this paneling, this vertical paneling, and I went and visited a Williams Homes development recently, and that's an image of what that paneling will look like there. And that also gives you an idea of what the garage on the modern architectural style will look like. So that's actually being constructed. So if you were to take off where that boat is, where that recreation garage is, that gives you a pretty good idea of what the single story will look like here with the 2 gable roofs. Not all these single stories have double gable roofs. They just have the one. One of the plans has a double. What they did do recently is they pushed back the garage, so the garage is less prominent. And this is the Plan 1, and they've pushed it back, I believe, about 4 feet. The architect will clarify if that includes all of the elevations. I put here farmhouse, but it may include all of the Plan 1s. That circle illustrates the additional depth that's been added to push the garage back. So the porch and that bedroom too will be a more prominent feature on this elevation. On the farmhouse Plan 3, they recently added The metal roof over the window, that's consistent with the North Fillmore specific plan. This is the modern view of this plan type. This is what the North Fillmore specific plan has as an illustration of what the modern vision was. And this is a list of the key components of what's considered modern out of our governing document. The applicant has since revised the modern plan a bit, and they've added a modern style stone veneer around the garage on the Plan 2, and also incorporated into the Plan 4. And this is a picture of what that stone will look like. This is an actual Williams Homes home built in Santa Clarita. So you can see it adds another point of interest on that house. So that was a nice addition, we felt. Another new component of this project is they are now showing what the accessory dwelling units will look like. You might remember some discussion about what options they had for meeting the density bonus or the affordability requirement. The affordability requirement is governed by the state, and it's also adopted in our local code. You have to have 15% of your project meet various income levels, very low and low income. And this is all baked into the conditions. There's a couple of options in there for meeting this. The applicant would prefer to pay an in lieu fee. The North Fillmore specific plan allows for an in lieu fee that has not yet been adopted by City Council. We have not fully studied what an in lieu fee would look like for us, but that would be their number one preference. Secondly is to go with the accessory dwelling units, which is also allowed for in the North Fillmore specific plan. They've identified the ADU would fit the Plan 5 best. And they've identified areas where the Plan 5 would have setbacks sufficient to have a staircase. And this is what that elevation would look like. The ADU sits above the garage, and you can see they added the staircase there. And they have actually built this similar feature. This is a picture of a Williams Homes plan that includes the staircase, and then that shows you what the interior will look like with a kitchen, small kitchenette and dining, and there's a bedroom. And so again, that circles where it is above the garage, and stackable washer and dryer. So it fits in nice and neat there, and it's fully contained living facility. That pretty much covers the overall major components of the project. There are a lot of intricate details and specifics within there. I don't want to get into too much detail because you're also going to hear from the applicant tonight, but I'd be happy to answer any questions about the specifics. Under CEQA compliance, this is the California Environmental Quality Act. There was an environmental impact report prepared for the North Fillmore specific plan back when it was adopted. The City Council recently approved an addendum to that environmental impact report. That was just last year in September 2022. And this project, being that it fits within that North Fillmore specific plan and it incorporates all of the mitigation measures from that EIR, it's considered exempt under the California CEQA guidelines. Staff's recommendation tonight is really two-part. You heard there are changes that have been incorporated. We gave you both options. You have resolutions to approve the project tonight and pass on, or recommend for approval and pass it on to City Council. And we also built in these alternatives. If you have additional ideas, if you want more, or give staff more time to review some of what these latest changes are, the alternatives are listed there as well. Do I need to read all the recommendations, or?
I think you covered, maybe just a summary again. Essentially,
okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so the staff recommendation are receive the staff report, open the public hearing, receive public testimony. The applicant's here to speak tonight. Discuss the project. Provide a list of any comments and direction that your body comes up with as you deliberate, and provide that direction to the applicant and to staff to make any improvements that you might see to the project. Architecture, site plan, everything is fair game. Then you will close the public hearing and direct staff to reschedule and legally notice the project to a future planning commission meeting once the architectural plans have been adequately revised. So that might take some time. If they make revisions, come back. We'll review it internally and then reschedule a hearing when it's ready. It could be a couple of hearings out. Alternatively, the planning commission could direct the applicant and staff to make architectural changes that you may, as you see fit, and adopt resolutions recommending city council approve, assuming those changes get incorporated into the project and you're comfortable with staff reviewing it and moving on to the city council at this stage. And you could adopt the resolution for both the development permit and for the vesting tentative track map. So really, it's two basic options. And Michael can elaborate a little bit more. It's more complicated than our typical recommendations, but we can help guide you through that. And the applicant's here to give a presentation as well. I'll be happy to answer any questions at this time, or you can wait till you've heard more.
I had a question for you, Brian.
Yeah.
In the information that we received today with the new revisions,
Yeah.
I'm happy to hear that the applicant is willing to add the balconies to all the lots that have views.
Yes.
Just a question about the balconies. Are they, what square footage or what size of the balconies? I know, I think the North Fillmore specific plan has some, calls out certain sizes on them. So I just wanted, just asking what the sizes of those balconies are that are being proposed.
Let me check that.
Brian, maybe we can have the architect answer that during their presentation.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you guys have the answer for that, I'll leave that question
Yeah, we could-
for you guys when you guys present.
It'll give us a minute to look it up.
Yeah.
Anything
All
else?
right. Anybody else have any quick questions for staff?
No. This would be the time to ask questions of staff before the applicant presentation.
I had a question, Brian.
Sure.
Within the 5 plans,
Yeah.
in the drawings that I received, I could see, like, for instance, Plan 1 has a modern farm and bungalow option. Am I understanding that right? Because every plan has about like 3 variations. But what I saw here in the presentation, it's one specifically per plan.
There's a Plan 1 bungalow.
Mm-hmm.
There's a Plan 1 farmhouse. And I believe there's a Plan 1 modern.
How is it determined which plan goes in?
The plot plan, the architectural plot plan is shown here on this slide,
Mhm.
and it's included in your packet. That's color-coded by plan type. So if you look at am I answering your question? Is the site plan there, how it's spread?
Actually, I worded it wrong.
Okay.
What architectural style how is it determined what architectural style goes into each plan?
It's really it's laid out by the applicant, so the architect will use their expertise to try to separate them out as much as possible, so you don't end up with 2 plans next to each other typically. In this case, though, there are 2 lots, I believe it's 36 and 37, they have to be next to each other, or at least the floor plan has to be next to each other, but they're gonna use a different elevation style.
Okay.
So you might get I don't know what it is on here, but it might be a modern Plan 1 and a farmhouse Plan 1. So unfortunately, it had to happen on those 2 lots only. But otherwise, the conditions require them to be spread out as most diverse as possible. So you can kind of see the color coding here to see that the architect attempted to spread them out. So
It's plotted now,
Yeah.
Brian.
yeah, that's
And
plotted
it's
here.
per this exhibit.
Yeah. But I'm sure the applicant's open to suggestions on any shifts that you want to make. If a different floor plan or different elevation, say, might be better at an entry, or something to that effect. Those are some considerations.
Is there a plan showing the elevation types on a site plan yet produced, or have we not?
Like a street scene?
Well, if we took this architectural site plan, it lays out pretty much the floor plans.
Yeah.
But the elevation type, you mentioned, the applicant will decide what lot gets what elevation or what style. I don't know if there's a plan that shows where the farmhouse is, where the modern
Yeah, in
Has that
relation to
been
these
produced?
plan types.
Yeah.
Is there an exhibit to that yet? Right now, it's just the plan types are plotted, but the elevation styles are still to be laid out. But the conditions of approval speak to it, to getting a diverse range spread out. So the applicant will propose, the different elevation style spreads on the street scene, and then staff will review that to make sure it's consistent with the conditions.
Thank you.
But you can certainly specify something specific if you'd like.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions for staff at this time? No? Okay. Thank you, Brian, for that. And then we can
Open the public hearing
go
and
ahead and
hear the
open the
applicant.
public hearing. So at this time, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing and receive any public testimony for this project.
Or be from the applicant presentation first before public comments?
And, okay, absolutely, and then we will have the applicant presentation now.
Correct.
Okay.
Well, good evening, Commissioners. My name is Glenn Adamick. I'm with Williams Homes, and I'll be partially presenting tonight. And I think what we'll do is we'll have Mike Cantrell, our architect, come up and spend some time kind of going through the whole architectural philosophy and the recent changes that Brian mentioned. To try to not be repetitive, I will try to go through this quickly as Brian stole my thunder, and a lot of the slides you've already seen. So, as far as Williams Homes goes, we're located in Santa Clarita, California. We're a respectable and trustworthy builder. We've developed communities all over Southern California, including Williams Ranch, which you saw a lot of pictures of today, Rosewood, and then Oxnard Shores. We have built projects in Fillmore in the past. We purchased this property back in 2017, and we're basically building this project from A to Z, so all the land development and the homes themselves. This is an aerial that shows the project site. Brian touched on this as well. This is the landscape plan, so this is another slide that Brian had, but basically you can kind of see the two main entry points coming into the project are significantly treated, so as you're coming into the community, there's a lot of monumentation. The trailheads and the park are located right where B Street enters the project. So basically you will have two trailheads there and you will be able to access the Sespe Creek Trail. And then the park is basically those two parcels that are shown. This is kind of a blow up of that area. Development of the 29.56 acres is consistent with the North Fillmore specific plan. There are 134 single-family residential homes, ultimately 133, and then plus the custom. It's 4.52 DUs an acre. Our lot sizes range from 5,000 square feet to 11,720, and then we've got 3.95 acres of open space. As we incorporate those gathering areas, that'll certainly increase that a little bit. As far as community benefits, there are provision of 134 market rate units. This counts towards the city's above moderate income RENA mandate. With the ADU units, we're also going to have very low and low income units that will also help with the city meeting their mandates. As Brian mentioned, the first approach is to pay the in lieu fee. The second is to go ahead and rent ADUs on site. There are public trail connections to existing city bike trails, and there is provision for all the infrastructure consistent with the North Fillmore specific plan. I'll go ahead and turn this over to the architect and let him talk about the concept and then spend a little bit more time on the recent changes we made.
Good evening. My name is Mike Cantrell. I'm with William Hesmahalch Architects, and I will go through some additional information maybe that Brian has not provided, which was a good presentation, and I'll try to add some information and answer some of the questions that I just heard. You know, when we first came to the site, Lance took myself and a couple others, and we drove the site, and it's a fantastic site with the views out to the mountains, and it's pretty amazing. So I'm very appreciative and fortunate to be a part of this project. We have built in the city before, Edgewood with Williams years ago, and Williams is familiar with your city, and again, just happy to be a part of this. you know, architecture is very subjective, right? All of us in here have different views on what we should see or want to see or don't want to see, and colors are very subjective and opinionated, and it's all good because it's a collaborative effort to get to a finished home that ultimately we want to sell to people, and they're going to live there, and they're going to appreciate that home that they live in, and we want them to be healthy, safe, and enjoy where they live and their neighborhood. Maybe I'll touch on a couple questions that you had just to start. Your question was, how do we assign the elevation styles to a particular floor plan, right? This site has 133 lots, and we have 5 different floor plans. And I will tell you, working with a lot of builders, that's a generous amount of floor plans. It typically would be 3, maybe 4. This has 5, so I think that's a big benefit. On top of that, there's 2 single-story plans. Williams always promotes a single-story plan in their lineup, and that's fantastic, because I will tell you 90% of the other big builders that we work with do not do that, because in their mind, that's a waste of money. Once you build the foundation and the first floor, it's cheap to put a second floor on it. So good for Williams to offer those single-level plans, because certain home buyers appreciate that. So I think that's a good start to this project overall. It's a good foundation of architecture. That said, we have 4 different styles across these 5 plans. So what we try to pay attention to is how these plans mass, right? Certain elements of the 2-story elements or the single-story, certain elevations adhere to those massing elements better than others, right? So that's where we start. The common theme style is the agrarian style, which we feel is appropriate for this setting in this part of the city. So that's why the agrarian, the farmhouses we call it, is on all 5 plan types. From there, we have a Spanish style, we have the bungalow style, and we have our interpretation of a modern style. So as Brian showed you certain examples, there's dozens and dozens of what you could potentially classify as certain styles and certain elements that you will get or not get. When was that specific plan approved?
It was approved, Measure I version was approved last year, September 22.
Okay.
Originally, it was adopted in 2006.
2006. So just for context, that's what, 17 years prior to, say, where we're at today. And if you notice a couple of those elements in there, chimneys, as an example, don't exist anymore. We can't have wood-burning fireplaces, right? It's all gas appliance now at that point in time. So it's not apples to apples, let's say, what was approved maybe that, 15, 17 years ago to what we're doing today. What we feel we're bringing to the table, Williams Homes and ourselves, WHA, is our expertise in our building and designing homes over 30, 40 years to what we try to provide to a homeowner, a project, efficiency, safe, the colors, the massing, what's trending today, what home buyers want today, and we obviously apply that to every new job we get, right? We're taking all that experience and moving it forward in our projects. That said, when we look at, say, as an example, garage back plans, if that was as popular as people may think it might be, trust me, those would be being built all over the place, right? I'm not discounting what that offers, but the argument against, say, a garage back plan, in our opinion, and our experience, is the additional concrete that's involved with that. It pushes the garage back, and it takes the private yard and it pushes to the front that's not so private. So again, it's very subjective. But I would lean towards that's not as favorable as a bigger rear yard. And to that point, I'm saying is why some of the garages are forward-facing, right? In that regard, we did look at pushing some of the setbacks to get some of those garages to have additional relief from the front setback, and that was some of the comments that were in the staff report. So what Brian had shown is an example of what we're trying to offer here. Let me try to go through a couple slides here. Glenn, this is your PowerPoint, right?
Yes.
If you don't mind, Brian, can I use yours? Only because
I put them together. I remember that last time, too.
it's good to see. I'm sorry, I'm just going to jump around here for a second. Let me just finish the thought on the garage since I kind of jumped the gun a little bit. So as an example, this is our Plan 1, right? So when you see this this floor plan in the red circle here is depicting basically a fur out, which is additional framing that recesses the garage door. And you can see it here in our shadow lines on the garage door. So there's additional depth there. I get it, that two-car garage is still facing the street, but we're trying to shadow it a little bit more and give it some depth so architecture comes in front of that. And you can see that this bedroom and this porch are proud of that garage face as well. Do you have that Plan 3 in here, Brian, that we sent over?
Elevation?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that this one? Okay. But you don't have a plan. Okay. So this particular elevation, it was a similar, same idea. So as much as I'll say it's 2 feet on the Plan 1 that we just looked at, this relief on this garage to this face is 4 feet. And then the porch is in front of that, an additional 5 or so feet. So again, we're trying to solve some concerns that way, as well as pushing that to, say, a 20-foot setback is typical. We're offering 22 and 24 feet, so we're taking space out of the rear yard to push the houses back to get some more insulation and more relief from the street. What I'll do here is I'm just going to maybe go style by style. So in context, we have 3 different Spanish elevations on the Plan 2, the Plan 3, and the Plan 4. And as you look at this generically, we have, a single story on the Plan 2 with a wide expansive porch, and then on the Plan 3 next to it to the right, we have 2 arches over the porch, and then we have the adjusted garage, which you don't see here. So to answer the question earlier, why you only saw one style in some of those adjusted elevations, is because that happened yesterday. And we were showing an example of what we can do on that particular style as one example, and applying that to other styles within that same plan type. So that will occur on other elevation styles within that plan type, but the time only allowed so much to draw between yesterday and today. So we're trying to listen to the staff report and to staff and make some adjustments. We also are adding the arch windows, like Brian had shown as well, over this porch on the Plan 3, and we're also showing it over this single-level bedroom on the Plan 4 as well. But in our mind, we have gables, we have hips, we have different different roof configurations, we have the arches, we have the shutters, we have pipe details, we have corbel details. In our mind, there's a lot of detail on here, but at the same time, we don't want to go so far as where it looks muddy and messy, right? And again, it's very subjective, but the Williams Ranch elevations you showed, which I think were some good context, and I'm going to see if I can find one. Right here, all the element that we're showing here really is the board and bat at the porch here, and this does have an RV garage, so you have to kind of try not to see that, and then it's just a simple eave with a garage door. But the color blocking and the different material from the stucco and the garage door detail, that's in our mind all you really need on this, and I'm going to jump to this one here. The stone element at the garage is very impactful. But when you look at the balance of the house, which is a very nice forms, again, I'm impartial, right, because I did this project as well. But we do have some metal roof on this single-story garage element, but it's simple windows, header trims, a couple shutters, some trim, and some outlookers in the gable ends. In my opinion, that shows really well. And what I'm trying to say is I don't think we have to put a bunch of things on there for it to show well. And simple and clean goes a long way, in our opinion. I'm going to jump around here. I'm going to go back to the next style. So this is our bungalow, Craftsman family, right? So this is more stucco based, but we do have some siding elements up inside the gable ends, and I'm going to regurgitate a little bit of what we talked about before, right or wrong again. The buyers don't seem to like siding because it's a maintenance issue, and you have to paint it, and it doesn't weather well after a certain amount of time. So we minimize the amount of that because it's a turnoff to buyers that they have to deal with. Again, that's what percentage is that? I'm not sure, but it's trending to not offer a siding as much because home buyers don't seem to gravitate towards that. But we have multiple gables. We have a front-to-back roof on the Plan 1. We have a front-to-back on the 3, but 3 supporting gables. And then our Plan 5 has a full left-to-right roof. So we're getting some nice variety. So I think it's good in context to see the different plans and the different forms. I'm going to go to the farmhouse here. So every plan has a farmhouse. And again, you can see the variety of colors, massing, roof elements. We do have metal roofs on the Plan 1. We already had one on the porch here at the Plan 3, but we did revise to add one over up this window on above the garage. and then this metal roof down here on the Plan 4 and the metal roof on the Plan 5. So again, the board and bat is really the accent to everything here, right? Whether it's a bold color on the 1 or it's a light color on the Plan 3, a green, so there's some nice variety of massing and or colors and details. And then our modern style. So this might be the one that's questionable compared to the example photo, which I'll just show real quick, is this, which is very contemporary in nature. And there's a lot going on here. I will argue this is probably not a home that's built by typical housing projects, probably more of a custom home, in all fairness. There are some dollars associated to this. It is a nice home. And not to say you can't replicate that, but again, it's very subjective. So when you look at the traditional Spanish bungalow farmhouse that we're showing, it felt like this might be the pendulum swinging a little too far and maybe a little too extreme, whereas a version like this is touching on that in some fashion, but still trying to stay in the family of styles we're trying to show for the overall neighborhood. What you'll see here on these extra lines, those aren't mistakes. Those are little control joints that sit in the stucco, and it gives a defining line. So it gives a little bit of emphasis and contemporary nature. We do have some exposed wood here, more of a natural-looking wood. That again is just more of an accent piece, and we do have the corbels in the gable ends to accent as well, and we do have metal roofs on the Plan 4 and the Plan 5, and of course the enhanced garage door on a couple of these. And what Brian showed is we are talking about adding, as an example, some of that stone to give it another level of detail. But again, when you look at that, or at least when I look at that, it's very simple. It's the stone and it's the metal roof, and everything else is secondary. There's a hierarchy of details we try to do, and we don't want to muddy it up, right? In my opinion, that's very clean. It has very nice forms. You know, for a 36-foot wide plan, it has a lot of relief on the right here and a lot of relief on the left. Let me go back to these again. So that's kind of the rationale or the theory behind what and why we did certain things. Did I answer the questions? That there was a couple questions. Oh, and the elevation styles. So it's just a puzzle, right? When we look at our site plan, we've plotted the homes, and the rule of thumb is what we follow is there's a performer that the builder has, right? Typically, there's less plan ones, and there's more of 3, 4, whatever the biggest plan is, right? We try to get an even mix. The specific plan or guidelines will dictate how many in a row we can do or not do. We try not to put the same plan next to each other, because we agree that we don't want to be repetitive, but they do offer different elevation styles and different color schemes. So once we set the foundation of how many units of particular plan types that we have, then we'll come back and we'll assign the A, B, and C styles to those. So it's just a puzzle of trying to get one not to face the same plan and or elevation style, and if it's a different plan, we try not to face the same elevation style. And then we have color schemes that help that too. So it takes a little bit of time, obviously, to go through this, like Tetris, right? So we got to work it out, but we and other architects and other builders do a good job of trying to disperse and make it an equal amount throughout the site is what we try to do. It's a nice balance, right? We don't want to be heavy in one style and less on the other. So that's how we approach that. So I think that's what I really wanted to say, just a quick overview.
Can you answer the question that was asked about the size of the balcony?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I can even clarify that question even more. So the reason I'm asking about the size of the balconies, because I just want to make sure that the balconies are big enough to be usable, functional, more than just being able to put like a chair out there. You want to be able to put like a little patio table or something. So I want to make sure that they're functional, usable, and usable.
Understood. Yeah, so they're going to be at least 8 feet deep, maybe 10 in some cases, and probably 12 to 14 feet wide. So if you do the math on that, it's about 120 square feet, plus or minus. So to your point, anything above 6 feet is usable in that fashion. So 8 to 10 feet on a rear. Now we're talking about the rear balconies facing the cesspit, right? So yeah, anyway, minimum 8 feet. And since you brought that up, I didn't touch on the porches. The porches per specific plan are required to be a minimum of 6 feet. if we look at the 5 different floor plans and the 3 styles per plan, we have 15 front elevations. 9 of those 15 have porches. Okay, so we're more than half offer porches on these plan types. The plan 3, we have a 10-foot deep porch, and the balance are roughly 6 feet deep. Okay, so there was conversation last time we were here. We do meet the minimum required, and we did offer at least the plan 3 as a 10-foot deep porch.
I just have a question about the porches. You said 6 feet deep, but what's the width on some of them?
Well, let me see if I can pull some up here. Who has the plans in here? Do we have a full set of? I don't know if we have a full set here, but I can give you some rough numbers. Oh, is this your package? Yeah, can I see that? Thank you. Sorry. So you can see the plan 2 here, the Spanish elevation style. That's roughly 17 feet wide.
And 6 feet deep.
And a minimum of 6 feet to this bedroom, and then the front door is set back an additional 6 or 8 feet. But yes, minimum 6 feet. And to your point about usability, that's why we don't show a railing here or a low wall, because that starts to close it down, right?
That was going to be my suggestion, to put a railing up there so it looks more like a porch.
Okay, well, again, it's subjective, right? Because
Exactly.
you put a railing, now all of a sudden, there's a barrier, let's say, right? Whereas you sit down and you can just read that depth. That's the plan 2. Let me show you the plan 3. Well, the plan 3 is just to the right, that Spanish elevation. Let me go. So that's the 2-arch solution, and then the plan 3 is in the upper right, this agrarian, so it's 3 simple posts. Again, what we're seeing today in today's market is not putting the railing on because it looks deeper and it reads deeper. Now, it's subjective, so right or wrong, that's just what we see trending. And then the plan, yeah, so that's 10 feet, and that's 15 feet wide. And sorry, I'm jumping around here. Where are we at? So the 4 has a porch on the side, and you can see that down here in the lower left. So you walk down along the side, and it's an elongated porch, and it's a very good corner lot elevation because the front door is on the side. And that was some of the intent on that one. And then I believe the plan 5.
And the corner lots are going to have wraparounds, porches?
Yes, the corner lots do offer wraparound porches. I think there's only 1 or 2 lots that we weren't able to achieve that based on the size of that particular lot. Oh, thanks. Yeah, so that, again, that's 15 feet wide by 6 feet deep. So you're roughly 100 square feet of usable porch. Is there any way to zoom in on this? Do you know how to zoom in on this, Brian? Just to show you some of the wraparound porches on the site. Should be the next page. Can we just zoom in to one of those corners? Okay, let's readjust, okay.
You can zoom in here.
Perfect.
Or grab it. Or
Thank you. Yep. I'm used to the blue beam, not so much Adobe.
Use the zoom tool there.
Got it. All right, just bear with me a second. I'll see if I can. Okay, so can you see these cluster of four lots here? So what you see here is this plan 4 has the porch on the side and our front door is here. So it's got a great street relationship on this side and then front relationship on this side. And this is our plan 3. So you can see this, it's a faint line, but you can see that porch as it's wrapping around the corner here. engaging this side, but primarily on this side. And then there's another Plan 4 over here. Plan 4 here, there's a Plan 4 here. So again, that's kind of the dominant corner elevation because it has a good street presence on two sides. And then when you look up here, this Plan 5 has a wraparound porch here, and the Plan 3 has a wraparound porch here, so. Yeah.
Did I hear you mention that there was areas where you couldn't do that in the corners?
There is a lot right here. See if I can zoom in. Whoa. Lot 78. That's this one here. But we do have the 10-foot porch on the front, and you can see the Plan 4 is behind it on lot 55. And then across the street, we also have a Plan 4 here. I think that's the only lot that didn't have a corner lot wrap condition.
What was the restriction on that lot? Is it just to add a variation, or?
I think we had issue with the setbacks on this one, on this lot, but this particular lot width here. We can verify that, because I know we went through this and did that. Obviously, we would offer it. There's no reason not to offer it if it fits. I'll have to get with CCAN and see, but I feel we were deficient in the setbacks to allow for that.
Okay.
So that's something we can re-verify.
Yeah, because I think it would look really nice, all four corners wrap around and interact with
Totally
all
agree.
sides of the streets.
Yep.
A question about colors. I think maybe the first image on that sheet, like where it had all of them at once.
Oh,
It had
the
all
street scene?
plans.
This one here?
Yeah, that's a good one. So when I look at this, I see the Plan 1, the farmhouse, and I saw all the elevations you had. You had some blue colors and some green
Oh.
colors and different hues on that. You can stay on this one.
Okay.
This is good. And then Plan 2, when I look at that, I see a lot of white. The Plan 3, the Spanish, I see a lot of like white, kind of
Off-white?
really off-white,
Uh-huh.
kind of eggshelly kind of thing.
Sure.
Plan 4, again, that looks pretty light colored, white, almost white, like maybe gray. And then the Plan 5, I see brown. So I do see some nice color variations in the Plan 5 and the Plan 1. The other three, I see kind of similar colors, kind of the white, maybe earth tony kind of colors. I would like to see maybe one additional added color versus three kind of really light whites. Just I think it would really set the development off, having an extra color. I know we have some other developments where we got some unique colors, and I know from talking to residents and people that see that when they're driving down the highway, we get comments that they really thought that was a unique element and they liked it. So that's one of the things that I looked at was just colors, and I would really like to see maybe like one additional extra color. It doesn't have to be yellow, red. I mean, I don't know. I just
Sure.
like to see one more extra color versus having three kind of really white, kind of off-white eggshell kind of looking ones in there. So, I didn't know if that was something that you guys would be open to.
Yeah, I think so. Just to tell you like a rule of thumb that we follow typically, we would have for 3 color schemes per style. So as we have 4 styles here across the neighborhood, that would generate at least 12 different color schemes. 3 different styles for the same, 3 different color schemes for the same style. So as much as what you see here, to your point, is like you see a little bit more brown, earthy of the bungalow. The modern's a little bit cleaner, crisper, whiter. The Spanish is notoriously eggshelly, off-white or white. And then the farmhouse, we like to play with bolder colors. and then the modern again with that kind of grayish white. So yes, I don't see why that would be a problem to offer additional.
I mean, they don't
colors.
have to be like extravagant, extreme,
Understood.
like just
More
like bright
variety
colors.
is-
Just a little bit more variety. is
Sure.
What I was thinking of, because I just see a lot of really light colors there. So
Okay.
even if they had like one extra color, I think it'd really set that off.
Sure.
Well, staying on this page, Plan 4, back deck option, I didn't see it in the drawings.
Yes.
It doesn't show it in the elevation. I know we have that, you guys agreed to add decks along the open space areas, so I was just wondering, is there a plan for a deck for that plan type?
Not yet.
Okay.
I say that jokingly because, again, that was kind of decided yesterday, and that was something that didn't get drawn. But if you look at that lower street scene, then thank you for pointing that out. I didn't touch on this. That's the Plan 3 in the middle with its upper floor balcony, which is roofed, and then the Plan 5 on the far right there, which is roofed as well, and you can see the railing at the second floor. So to your point, when you look at the Plan 4, it would be on this left side of the elevation, because that's where the primary bedroom is, at that second floor with those 2 windows, and the family rooms below that with those 3 windows. So it would look very similar, same to what you see on the 3 and the 5. We just haven't produced that because of our timing.
So would that give I guess, a built-in back patio as well?
That's right. So, yeah, so not only is the second floor balcony roofed, but that creates a roof for the lower floor outdoor room. So really, you're getting 2 rooms out of it, right?
A couple other items. Texture types on, let's see here, stucco types. What is the type of stucco you guys intend to use? It just lists as stucco as exterior finish.
Yeah, typically that's a light sand finish.
I know North Fillmore plan requires or calls out smooth finish on, let's see, should I get this right? On the modern style homes? Are you guys open to that?
Well, there's different levels of smooth. There's like a 20-30 finish, and there's like a hand trowel smooth finish, right? So light sand is 95% of the time.
Yeah, that's common.
Yeah, right.
You see it everywhere.
Yeah, right. So lace, light lace, decades ago, but there's another level of fine sand finish before you get to a smooth trowel.
So I guess the question is, how are we meeting that?
The definition, what smooth says in the
yes.
specific plan?
Yes.
That's a good question. I don't know if I have a necessary answer at this point in time, but I know we've approached that before with a lighter sand, because to the naked eye, 6, 8, 10 feet away, it's that fine without being a smooth trowel, so that's probably up for discussion.
And then also, a couple other items I have here. On the bungalows as well, the front porch columns, they are all stucco based. I know North Fillmore's plan calls out for it to have some sort of cobblestone brick or stone of some sort on the lower base. These are straight stucco base all the way up.
Got it. Yes, we do have stone, but to your point, the columns are stucco.
I think it would add some variation out in the front as well.
To add some stone to those column
to those
bases.
column bases.
Okay.
And then also, you pulled up earlier, I don't know if we could flip back to it, but there was an example of a modern home style at Williams Ranch.
Oh, uh-huh.
That depth of that garage setback, to the picture on the right.
This one here?
Yeah, our layouts here that you guys presented, we don't seem to have that same kind of depth of the garage setback.
For the two car?
Yeah, is there a reason why? Is it we can achieve it, or is it just wasn't considered?
Well, a couple things. This particular house right here has a swing-in garage right here. This is a one car. and that typically sits at 15 feet, and then it's a 10-foot wide door, or excuse me, 8-foot wide door and a 10-foot wide garage. So I'm going to guess, this is roughly 25 or 24 feet deep, let's say, from the street. So a couple ways to probably answer that. Like I kind of started talking, the further we push the garage back, the less yard you get in the back. The more
Understood.
concrete you get in the front.
Understood.
Subjective, right? Someone will say, great, I'm going to put a basketball court. You can see the basketball hoop, right? You have kids, they play hockey, whatever, and then you might have a different family that says, why am I giving up 5 or 8 feet there when I can get another 5 or 8 feet in my backyard? So it's hard to answer that with a defined answer. But I would say just one more thing. When we did talk about undulating our setbacks, let me go to.
If you could just stay on this picture too, I'll add one more thing before you switch,
Oh,
just
sure.
save you time.
Yep.
And then also just pointing out too, as an example,
Oops, sorry.
there's a lot of changes in roof elevation, setbacks, a lot of, just looking at that, right?
I understand, sure.
And what's presented to us.
Is not that.
I don't want to say is more basic looking, but it is more basic looking.
Okay.
But, you know, I know this is in Valencia, Santa Cruz area.
It's in Castaic.
It's like, I would expect to see something like that presented to us.
Okay.
It's when you see examples of other builds that occur with this type of design, you know, I think reading through our specific plan, the elements and what the concepts of what we're trying to achieve or what was passed or approved, I think this is more in line with what was the thought. And what was presented seems very, again, basic. Maybe
Okay.
subjective, but.
Well, let me just put more context to this. The problem with showing this, in all fairness, this is an 8,000 square foot lot, and this is a 55-foot wide home. Our lots are 50. And when you put that into context, our max width of product is 40. So what you don't see on this particular site, there's 15 floor plans on this site, 490 some lots. Anywhere from 5,500 square feet to 12,000 and above. So there's additional homes on this site that are more comparable to what we're proposing on our site. So it's not apples to apples. It's unfair to say this looks better because it's got an extra 15 feet in width.
I'm not.
And-
Yes, looks aside more what we're trying to achieve here.
I'm sure it's a scale factor. If you want some, the lots would have to be 70 feet wide, in all fairness, to achieve the width you see here. That said, I will say also on top of the homes we're offering, there's a certain level of attainability in housing these days, right? So by no means am I saying they're cheap. I'm proud of what we've offered, and Williams is the same way. And again, it's very subjective, but I would say you can't look at that house and say you want to see that because that's unachievable. That the scale of that is just, you'd have to lop off that 2-car garage on the left and then what's left, in all fairness. That's the only way I can answer
Can you
that.
flip between this picture and what is proposed here to just kind of see the features and
I think it's right above it.
it's right above it?
Yeah, I don't know if you can see both at the same time. So, let's talk about that. Look at those elements. The stone element on the lower level, the metal roof on the upper level, the steeper pitches at 8 and 12, the wood accents, the garage door, the wood porch, the wood header at the porch, and then I'm going to jump right to the other one. 90% of those elements are the same. It's just a scale factor. So we're offering the same level of architecture. It's just smaller in scale. The relief on this left side, the relief on this right side, the gable to the front to back, this plane, that plane, that plane. There's 4 planes there. This has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with the garage, and back here, again, because this is a 4,000 plus square foot house. So in my mind, or my professional opinion, yes, I'm impartial because I drew it. You're getting the little brother of the big brother house that's just as nice, and the livability is going to be fantastic for what this lot in this site offers. That would be my argument to that.
What's the size square, I know I could look in the drawings, but what size square foot is this plan for?
This plan 4 is, this is printed double-sided. You'd think I'd have it off the top of my head, but I can't retain every number. This is 2150. So this is essentially half of that house with a similar same level of detail. So I would think that would reinforce the argument of what we're providing, seeing that these are not apples to apples. And I'm not trying to argue with you. Again, it's subjective. I get it, man. I'd love to have a 100-foot wide, right? But the attainability, the price point, what we're offering, I say we, us and Williams as a team, collaborative, you guys, right? It was all collaborative. We feel strong by what we've shown.
Yeah, and not,
Sure.
nothing
I've-
against the design.
I've heard worse,
No,
trust me.
I know. You gotta understand where we're coming from, right?
Sure.
As representatives of the city of Fillmore.
Understood.
We had a beautiful development put in over here at Comstock. I think the community is extremely happy with it and the architecture.
We did Edgewood years ago. No, we're happy. Yeah, agreed.
So our bar is there. And again, the other commissioners could disagree with me, but I think, what I see here feels basic to me, so.
Feels what?
Feels basic, the style. I have a couple more, sorry. A couple more things. Switching gears to more lot layout, looking at the lot layouts. One thing that I really enjoy in the newer development, I have a house over here, is the offset between the lots. So you're able to have a view from your backyard, your patio, back patios, looking in between the two houses behind you. And for the most part, it looks like it's achieved here. There are lots, and for example, if we're looking at lots backing up 56, 57, 77, 76, those lots in the homes are pretty much back to back. It's just, you have such beautiful views, as you mentioned earlier, over there.
On the perimeter?
And on the inside tracks as well.
Sure.
It seems wasted to just be blocked by another house right behind you directly. I don't know if there's any way we can offset it or I honestly, I don't know how that would be achieved, but.
You're trying to get a better view from one home.
Yeah, so let's just look at, if you.
Yeah, let me see if I can bring up a
look
better site
at,
plan.
let's see here. Do 7657, it's right there on Shadow Ridge Way and 8th Street. Yeah. So you see the 76.
Okay, 76 is right
76
here.
and 57 right behind it. Your view, more so for lot 76, you're looking directly at
I see.
57.
Got it, right.
You're wasting such a beautiful view of Sespe Creek. And it might seem small, but they achieved it over there, and it does make a big difference when you're sitting in your backyard and you're not looking. It makes the houses behind you feel like they're not there.
Achieved it over where?
In the development, Comstock's development.
Got it. They achieved it, how did they achieve it?
They're offset, so your property.
The lots
so
are staggered?
76 would be staggered between 58
I
and
see.
57.
I got it. So what you're saying is from 76 to 57, if these property lines are 5 feet apart, you're saying one was in the middle, it's
So-
like a T.
So if you see 71, right, lot
Uh-huh.
71 further down, it is sat between 63 and 62.
Got it,
That right there you would still get a view from your backyard in 71.
got it. So like what lot is that? 58, 61, 63, and 66 are single stories, so is it safe to say that you're looking up above and beyond those to the view?
Correct, yes.
Got it. And then your line of sight from 75 and 74 or 73 and 74 looking between 59 and 60 because it's a wider throat.
Correct.
So that's subjective, right? I mean, there's 4 or 5 lots that are single-story that you would argue the 2 adjacent homes on the other side will look past, and then some of these wider throats on 59 and 64, you're getting some of those wider throats. I see what you're saying. The lots, however they're laid out, right, there's a certain efficiency, and I don't know that site plan. I don't know how big the homes are, how wide the lots are, so I can't really talk to that. But I would say the brown and red are single-story, so whatever's behind those, pick 1 or 2 lots, not just the direct one behind, because lot 74 can look towards the north a little more, right? Just as much as 72 can look this way, and 73 can look this way, and 75 can look, I mean, I guess my comment would be, I think we do have some view sheds that we're able to do, primarily because they offer single-story homes, and we don't have a stagnant width, 35, 36, and 40 wide, so the green plan is forgiving because it has a wider setback. So I think you'll get those. I know it's not a black and white answer, and it's not a black and white solution, but the opportunity's there, in my mind, for those reasons. Without seeing Comstock, I'm not discount. I can't speak to that. Are they
Yeah,
big? Are they like 40-foot setback? I don't know for context. I can imagine.
Yeah,
I can only imagine they have 5-foot side yards.
Yeah, the line of sight is pretty clear in between, in those backyards. Even they do have single story as well.
Okay, that's good.
So it is.
Good. Yeah, I'm sure that helps.
If I can add to that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
'Cause that was a direction that the planning commission asked on the Bridges subdivision, and I had to figure that out with the architect. We staggered the property lines. That's the only way to do it. And then we shoved houses as far as we can to one side of the property, and on the other block, houses were shoved on the other side of the property, so you can look in between the houses. It was the only way we could do it, and so when a house is shoved to one side, then we had an RV parking on one side that's very open, it's about 16 to 17 feet wide on that particular property, but it created a view corridor between the houses. That's how we were able to achieve what you're asking to do today. We did it on that previous subdivision.
You had 17 on one side and 5 on the other?
Yeah.
So that's 25. How wide are the lots? Must have been 60 at least, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're big lot. They're 10,000 square foot lots.
Okay, again,
Yeah.
not to discount, that's not apple. We're half that lot size, which I think helps our argument that the single stories, we do have the view sheds and we're looking over single stories 2 plans. We're half the lot size, so every 2 lots is 1 lot over there. And if you're shoving homes left and right, well, of course, it's gonna do that.
Yep, I'm just telling you, there's more than one way to skin a cat.
Well, we'd have to go to 64 units or something to do that. Yeah, you're right. Again, it's subjective, right? So if we try to stay apples to apples and fairness to see what is being provided, I get the arguments, and it's great because it makes for a better product. All we're trying to do is make a better home for someone to live in, and these are reasons why, everything you're bringing up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
On staying on this, if you go down to lots 3, 4, and 5.
3, 4, and 5?
Yeah, just straight down from there. Okay, this is where they have no street parking, right?
Oh, because there's flag lots down Hidden Lane Court?
Yeah. So that means these people could only park, I mean, if everybody could park 2 cars in the garage, they'd have parking for maybe, if company comes over, they're gonna be parking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 houses away on an event. Is it possible, because lot number 2 is 9,200 plus square feet?
Uh-huh.
Is it possible to move it and, change the orientation of it a little bit, and you would pick up 7 feet, and then you would have a wide enough street in there?
You're trying to make that a regular street
Yeah,
to park in front of those 3 homes. If I just summarize, is that kind of the idea?
that's exactly.
Sure.
Because,
Um,
go ahead.
No.
Because I noticed these don't have, on the agricultural plan that we had, landscape plan, there aren't any trees on the front of these houses either. Because I guess because it's a driveway.
Yeah, it'll be whatever landscape, I don't want to speak for landscape, he's here, Tyler, but,
Okay. But if we could,
So-
if that lot was shrunk a little bit and the house changed its orientation, I mean, even dropped back a little bit, you could pick up the 7 feet to make that so they would have street parking.
Yeah, CCAN or Civil Engineer may want to weigh in on that too. Again, if you, to find seven, so when you look at this element, right, I will say that we know what this is, right? This is slope, so this is higher than the street, right? So lot 2 is higher than Hidden Lane, so could you retain this possibly and pick up parallel parking right along here and not touch anything else? I don't know. Can you widen this? Yeah, maybe it's possible. Maybe it's up to Williams or other consultants
Well,
to
one of
chime
my
in.
kids has a flag lot house, but his house is huge and it's got parking for 6-7 cars on his lot,
Sure.
plus his garage.
Is that
So-
Texas? Where is he?
And so that's what I was looking at going,
Yeah, yeah.
boy, if I'm coming over this guy's house on lot 3, I may have to park
I get it.
5 blocks away.
Sure, and lot 3 is probably going to take advantage of the stub end here, right? People are going to park here for him, or people could park for 4 and 5 at the end of this,
It-
2 to 3 spots, possibly. I
But
get
it says no street parking. I mean, no.
No, hey, well, it doesn't mean people are going to follow the rules.
And then on lot 30, if we can go to the right, 130, sorry.
130?
Yeah, 130. One 130, in the specific plan, it talks about on 5331, it says houses shouldn't be looking, sight lines shouldn't be into the house. So if 130 looks like, to me, it looks right into 129, could it be, put it on a different angle?
Or just rotate it around?
Yeah, rotate it around so it's not looking into 129?
Possibly. This probably yielded the largest yard for lot 130, would be my guess, because we obviously, it's a puzzle, right? We just move things around, but we could look at that. The dead side of the house is the garage side primarily, typically, right? Because it's more utility driven with, so the livability is to the east, if north is up. But that's,
So that would be a bedroom, or I'm not sure what that floor plan would be.
yeah, this is.
So from the porch, you'd be looking right into the other people's porch.
I get it, yeah, I'm sure that could probably be rotated. Let me just say it that way, I'm sure that's.
I had a question about accessory dwelling units also.
Okay.
Are you going to really try to use those as a way to get low-income housing? Because it says in the document that they have to be leased at the close of escrow?
We never got to the conclusion of the presentation, sorry, but maybe that's good for Glenn to come back up.
Yes, we're proposing to rent the ADUs. You cannot sell them separately.
Right, but, so the homeowner would be renting them.
Yes, they would have a deed restriction on them, and the homeowner would rent them.
So when they close escrow, they have to have a renter in there.
They will have to.
I'm just saying, to me, it just seems very, very difficult to achieve that.
Yeah. I think that's why, our first preference, of course, is an in lieu fee.
I
Would
understand.
love to have that all day long, but, I think where we're at with the site plan is that is really the only option. You just can't carve out another lot or create something else that can be sold.
And then on the fire, this may be a really, really small thing, but on the diagram we got on where the fire hydrants are at, would it be a benefit to the fire department to put one at the access road back by where 3, 4, and 5 was, up at on the Barranca up there for the fire department?
My understanding is the fire department set those hydrant locations.
Oh, they set them?
They set them.
Okay.
I wish we could choose, but they don't let
I'm
us.
trying to make it easy for them. They don't just string the hoses so far. Oh, and the last thing is, on the bike lane, on the layouts we got that showed where the bike lanes were, it didn't look like to me that they actually connected to the existing bike lanes up that same area where 3, 4, and 5 is.
As you're going up the levee?
Yeah. Because it said, and maybe it was part lower that said it was going to be constructed by others, but.
No, we do construct it. It just
And you do
crosses the
put it-
property.
So you're going to, it's
Yeah.
going to connect into the.
And it will connect,
Okay.
yes.
No, that's,
I got a list too. Go ahead.
All right. I just wanted to say thank you for providing the balconies. You said I had a whole sheet of comments here on balconies, and I was going to say that we need to put balconies on all homes with views of Sesame Creek and all the open space. So I just want to say thank you very much for doing that, because you saved me from having to go through a whole sheet of comments. So just
Perfect.
Yeah, thank you.
I wanted to add, I like a lot of aspects of the project, and being that it's all views and it's about the view and taking advantage of the view, I was, if you could go up to lot, please, 20 and 21. It's on the corner of 8th and Dry Creek.
20 and 21. We gotta get this thing to some sort of scale where it can actually. Did I miss it?
And maybe this question's more for the architect. Right there, it's the red and blue.
20 and 21. It's right here.
No, down to the next set of red and blue.
Here's 20 and 21, or is that 20?
It's right at the end of the east, right there.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, right here.
I was just envisioning as you're driving down that street towards the mountains, if there were two first floor units, you could see over them and into the mountains.
Sure.
It's something small, but
Yeah. Flip it with the one next to it, right? Because, yes,
Yes.
good call. Sure.
Okay.
and then circling back to the coloring, I noticed on Plan 1 on the farm, it looks really good, the changes and trying to make it less prominent, the garage. But at least for me, I don't know for any of the other commissioners, that white garage just stands out. And even though dimensionally it's pushed back,
Yeah.
the white makes it pop.
Sure.
And then the siding that is very, very dark
Yeah.
makes that seem like it's further back, at least from the front view. Obviously, at the side angle, you can tell it's not. But
Yeah.
is there a way to swap those colors? Not completely, like not put white on the garage,
Try
but
to make it disappear a little bit.
yeah, with a darker
Sure.
color, because you guys achieved it on this Plan 3 on Spanish. It's a darker garage door, and then the house is lighter. So maybe not a white, but maybe like a lighter color instead of a darker color on the siding.
I think that's worth looking at. It's interesting, right? Because I've heard other of the opposite, right? Don't make it bolder because then you see it more. But, no, I think that's in the cards to look at how to color those.
Yeah, it makes it seem, the bolder or the darker tones make it seem just that depth effect, like it's further, less
Sure.
sun
Okay.
on it. And also, thank you for the decks, because it saves a lot.
It was Mike's decision.
Yes, very wise.
It's not my checkbook.
Let's see, where can I start? Oh, going to Hidden Lane. Is there a reason why that's a private road and not a public road, like on the whole track?
Where we at?
It's the bottom left-hand corner.
Oh, it's just a flag lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
So those just tend to be kind of a reciprocal driveway, so all the owners have a portion of it.
It's just a big shared drive,
Yeah.
essentially is what that is.
Okay. Is it, it's not gated, it's not,
No.
nothing?
No, it's
So
accessible
people
then.
could walk down and then walk back?
For sure.
What I was thinking is, you guys connected the bike path over at Foxtail?
Mhm.
And was wondering if that could be done at Hidden Lane Court?
What's that grade? Can it work?
Yeah?
Yeah.
Just to have access, depending where you live.
Sure.
To be able to jump on that trail and either go to the levee or instead of going all the way down, and use it more accessible if there's
Sure.
no cars there. And on that note, I was thinking, that open space area, the seating, the trees, the bike path, it's great. I mean, it seems like it's usable area. But I don't see anything for activity other than walking. And I think, Mike, you had to mention basketball courts, hockey, I was thinking at the end of that cul-de-sac, maybe in the open space area, adding a half-court basketball half-court. That could be used as multi-purpose area. And I've seen a bunch of portable basketball backboard systems out in the streets. And it kind of avoids it and gets the kids playing out there in that area. And they could turn into pretty much anything.
And this is actually kind of a dual use, so we're using this to treat floodwater as well.
Okay.
So, there will be times where portions of the site are impacted, but there are portions that probably will never, ever be impacted. So if it's a matter of looking at a couple areas, predominantly, behind the homes at Foxtail Court, we might be able to do something there.
Okay, off to the side.
Yeah.
With a connection to the bike path as well.
Yeah.
Using that area.
Yeah, if you're looking at a half court or something like that. Yeah.
And right now that you mentioned the flood area, is the bike path impacted when it goes to the open space going west to east?
Portions of it would be
Okay.
during events.
Okay.
The nice thing about this site, because of its proximity to the creek, is that it percolates very quickly. So when you do have storm events, to meet, the state and city water quality requirements, we're using this as kind of a dual use to accommodate that.
Would the HOA be responsible to maintaining it when
Yes.
it does get impacted?
Yes.
Okay. And what type of, it mentions in 4.3.2.3 that there's a type of public art or interpretive signage at these entrance of these trailheads. So what is being used? I didn't see anything.
We haven't come up with anything yet.
Okay.
So there is an example that was shown in the specific plan. We just haven't determined what that is yet. And that will be something that we will certainly submit to staff to review and approve.
Now jumping on curb extensions. I think they're a great idea. It slows down traffic, it keeps the pedestrians safe. And I saw you guys using them in a lot of areas. But I also saw in some areas where they weren't being used. And they improved pedestrian crossing by reducing crossing distance, and they tend to slow and calm traffic during from turning from a major to a minor road. So I was looking at the plan, and there's some areas at the entrance of this track on B and 10th Street where they're not being used, and I think it would slow down the traffic significantly and keep our pedestrians safe, like kids or even adults with strollers. Gets them out.
Are you thinking here like good enough where you would have a pop out of some sort?
Yep, that pop out, and also at the corner as well, right where you were at before.
And that might play well because those are the two gathering areas that we've kind of identified. So, and we just haven't fleshed out a design there, but those are two of the gathering areas.
Okay, yeah, those gathering areas were great, putting them apart from the open space area
Yeah.
in the community itself.
Yep.
Saying you can't do it.
Fire department?
Wouldn't get turning radius in there.
Okay.
Okay, that's why they were left out in the main
Yeah.
entrances? Okay.
You can see that street kind of knuckles there, so you get the swing way out at all coming and make that turn.
Yeah.
What was the thought? I thought there was probably a reason because they were used everywhere else.
Well, the nice thing with the gathering areas is you're going to have something that's prominent, at least off there. So benches or whatever else, you'll see people, so. I also wanted to close on some condition suggestions that we had as well, but if there aren't any more questions.
I wanted to see if we could add, I know, I think it was mentioned that porch railing or like protection, can that be an option instead of like making it a standard that it's installed? Can that become an option for the homeowner to add?
I'm not answering that. Typically, we don't see that. It's either there or it isn't. That would be up to Williams to answer, but we don't see that as an optional item.
Yeah, I understand that it closes it, but if, I've seen them only a couple installed throughout the new Bridges subdivision, and I thought it was interesting. It makes it more intimate for the homeowner, but I understand the depth perception. If it's at 6 feet, it makes it smaller.
I think it's certainly something we can consider.
Okay. And now tilling on the smoother, modern finish. To me, when I see modern, I see that finish, and not just here, everywhere. And that kind of gets me feeling like it's a modern style. So I think it would help a lot if that is included in the modern finish, just to differentiate between all the other stuccos and on the modern.
Okay. Let me, it's another thing we can certainly take a look at.
I have one more thing, promise.
Fire away.
All right. On Plan 3 farmhouse, I don't know if we could pull it up or not.
Oh, that might be architect question here.
Might be, yeah, for Mike. Yeah, Plan 3 farmhouse, the front sloping patio roof
At the porch?
at the porch. Does that have a gutter along that front side?
I believe we're providing gutters. Depends what the soil, yeah, typically do, depends what the soil report says. But yes, there would, yeah, so you're talking about sheet flow of water coming out the front?
Because, yeah, they didn't do that in the development here.
Oh, okay.
And when my wife's leaving with 2 little kids in the morning, it's raining, she gets really upset.
Definitely at that point, it would, yes.
Okay, appreciate it.
Anything else?
That's all I have.
I just have one question, and we can stay on this, this map, but in the back where Sesame Creek is there a reason there's no road or fire road back there? Similar to what's back here in Heritage Valley in the Bridges subdivision, where that's where I live.
Well, I think as indicated by Brian earlier, fire access is provided from the trail. We're building up to the top of levee.
Okay, my worry is that people are gonna be back there walking, looking, at the creek. It should, the community should have access to this, not just the residents. It should be a community type thing. And if they're parking like in a track where, what is this, 3, 4, and 5, where it's got very limited parking, you start parking inside the residential areas and then hike back there or walk back there, somebody gets hurt, the fire department's gotta pull in, find where you are, walk back there and find you. Was there any thought or any consideration given to an actual road being back there so people can drive it, like I said, similar to what's on Heritage Valley in the back?
I think the challenge here is there's grade differences between the lots and the top of levee. So I think that's certainly one of the issues. And I think the goal here with the project was to at least provide that fire access up to the top of levee. As far as parking within the residential development, there is plenty of street parking. We've provided an exhibit for that. So certainly folks that don't live in the community could certainly park in there and access the trails in the park.
I live in an HOA and they restrict the parking to residents only. So
These are public streets.
okay, so that's my concern is if somebody gets hurt or even the proximity to the wash. I understand the levee's built up, but we've seen a lot of rain recently and it gets wild back there. I'm optimistic that I feel I would feel better if there was something done back there where fire, EMS, Ventura County Sheriff could get back there in an expedited way versus having to hike around in there to try to find an incident, whether it's a snake bite, whether it's somebody in the wash that gets hurt, just anything, let alone I think a road would create a way to mitigate if the wash did overflow or the levee broke, and it would provide some type of barrier or even a temporary barrier between the homes and the levee itself.
I think, again, without looking at the grades there, that may be difficult to accomplish where, you've got sites, part of the project where it's lower, part where it's higher, just to try to figure out, how you would even do something like that. I think you can get them back to the levee via the trail access, but I'm just not sure how you could really make a road work back there that is at the levee height.
That's just my my thoughts for that. Thank you, though.
Thanks.
All right. Anything else?
Could I ask staff a question?
Well, yeah, sure, this would probably be a good, I mean, maybe if there's any applicant
I was going to
questions.
just kind of finalize my little presentation up, if okay. Before we end here, I think the other requested revisions that we included in our letter were to some of the conditions of approval for the project. The first one was related to E11. Basically twofold here. One is we wanted to clarify that the public offsite improvements that needed to be in place prior to C of O were required public offsite improvements of the project. It was a little broad. The second is to allow us to do basically a construction phasing plan for the on-site improvements. You're going to build this site in phases. We're not putting in all the infrastructure on day one. It would be difficult to do. You'd end up tearing it all up anyways. On P3, this is something that Brian brought up in his presentation. We really only have one spot on the site where we're using two floor plans that are exactly the same, but we are elevating them differently. So we would like permission to do that. And then the next one is related to two bullet points that are in P21 that, in light of the changes we've made on the architecture here and the work we've done with Brian, we would like those bullet points to be eliminated. They're related to a 10-foot porch and a 10-foot deep wraparound porch on the corner lots, which would be difficult to achieve with these lot sizes. And then finally, as it relates to the affordable housing condition, there was a rental component that was added in each of the other conditions. We just wanted to make sure that in AH7 number 2, that includes language that the ADUs can be rented. Again, we can't sell them legally. So those are the requests that we have there. I really do want to thank staff and Brian for kind of working with us. We've been bothering him on a weekly basis, so I'm sure he appreciates that. But he's been great to work with as we've moved through this process. And as far as the commission comments tonight, I think, absent the roadway issue, I think a lot of these are comments that we can continue to work with staff on prior to going to city council to address them the best that we possibly can. Whether it's colors, whether it's type of stucco, adding a court, potentially the half court, widening that private drive for parking, those kind of issues I think we can work through on the site plan and work with staff on. So my request would be that the commission look at the alternative, direct us to sit down with staff and work through these issues that the commission has identified tonight, and allow us to proceed to city council. We've been involved in the project since 2017, so we're certainly eager and excited to go. So that concludes my presentation, and I'll be here for any questions, and we've got the whole team here too, but thank you for the time tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So maybe before we open that, there was a question about asking staff a comment, maybe following up on the applicant presentation. It'd make sense to do that now. And then if there's anyone from the public that's here to speak about the project, they could make their comment.
Okay, yeah. Brian?
Yeah.
On the fire access that Aaron brought up, was there discussions with fire department about this, and did they give any opinion on or recommendation, or were they okay with the layout we have currently?
Yeah, the fire department has been a part of the review. They're part of the design review committee that we meet with on a routine basis, and this is designed per the fire department's input. One of the things was to have this road access here that's right off B Street. So that's shown here on the landscape plan, and then that ramps right into the levee. So a fire truck could drive back there along the levee, and I believe they wanted to get a water tank, and the fire department felt that that was sufficient. And then they also requested a 100-foot setback or a fuel modification zone between a structure and the levee. So the measurement at the toe of the levee on the creek side to the back of the structures has to be a minimum of 100 feet.
So they felt like that was sufficient defensible space to get a truck back there with the 100-foot fuel modification zone. And they accepted it as like this. Yeah.
Does staff have any comments or recommendations on the applicant's requests of changes or revisions to the draft conditions of approval items?
Yeah, we'd have to look at them a bit more. You could submit a construction phasing plan under E11. We haven't seen how that would work because you have to have dual fire access from both sides, so that road would have to be constructed all the way between B Street up to Good Enough. And you wouldn't build the road necessarily without having most all your utilities in the ground as well. And the water has to be looped. I'm not saying it's not doable, but there's certain aspects to that we would have to review with the fire department and with the city engineering department to see what their engineer CCAN can put together on that. They can speak to more specifics, but we would certainly entertain a phasing plan and look at it. Yeah, and then if it works, it works. But it's a purely engineering decision. Yeah.
Any other questions for staff?
And some of the other conditions too, we'll work with them on if there's things in there that require more submittals or coming back, if we can't resolve them, then we would bring them back and to the body to make a decision. But these seem like reasonable changes that we could work through. Yeah.
I would say on the affordable housing, that's something we need to come up with language. I'm not going to try to come up with language on the fly. We need to make sure that that's nailed down with the appropriate language.
We did do ADU rentals in the Citrus Grove project that KB built down the road here on Central. And there was a whole series of written documentation that was prepared by the attorney's office. So they would craft a condition language to allow for rentals of ADUs and figure out how we would manage that long term. The North Fillmore specific plan is limiting in the fact that you have to do single family homes per Measure I. So because of Measure I, we're left with designating a whole single family home as a low income unit, which is very hard to do, practically completely infeasible. And then to sell an ADU is also pretty infeasible. There's other things like SB 9, Senate Bill 9, that's allowing residents to split lots now. So if somewhere along the way there was a detached ADU, that could come about. But at this point in time, that we wouldn't be able to identify something like that. In order to meet the 15%, in order to pass go here legally, we have to craft something that's going to work within those limitations of the North Fillmore specific plan, single family home development, and we're left with ADUs, and we are looking at an in lieu fee to see if that would work. But the conditions build in those different options of meeting it.
And with the, Brian.
Yeah.
The, with those ADUs, what would stop somebody from renting that to their 18-year-old son? And that's low income.
That's the way to do it. Yeah, and so residents buying a home are going to be a bit confused, and they're going to have to be educated they're going to be on a steep learning curve as to how you rent to a low income person and how you get them to qualify. The best way to do it is to rent to a family member. The helicopter parenting is taking on a new role, and you also have, grandma, grandpa, who don't have a lot of income, and they would qualify as well.
They just couldn't make it up the staircase on the inside.
True. Yeah. I guess maybe you could come up with a dumbwaiter or something like that, or maybe a wheelchair lift, if that's the case.
That question kind of gets to the challenge in coming up with language and really making sure that's nailed down.
That's right.
Properly.
But some families have really enjoyed that aspect because it's kind of bringing the family back together. Where if you have a granny flat, as we used to call them. The kids are growing up with mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, or there's allows a little more space for multiple components of families to kind of stay together. Which is in demand here in Fillmore as well. Yeah.
But it is a tricky administrative endeavor, that's for sure. But we are working closely with Michael to craft that language to make it work. Yeah.
And we're not sure, we're not clear on what the in lieu fee verbiage is.
We've begun surveying some surrounding communities, and there are consulting firms out there that have the formulas to kind of craft what these fees would be. That also gets tricky because the city would be, sitting on a pile of money, and then a low-income developer would have to come along, and we would have to allocate that money within probably a certain period of time to build another low-income project elsewhere in the city. And so whether we actually realize those low-income units or not is, it's kind of kicking the can. So whether we can meet the California Housing Community Development requirements for our RENA numbers would be another thing we'd have to manage to make sure that that money is allocated in a timely fashion. So it's just another administrative, hurdle that a lot of the state laws kind of get us twisted up in pretzels here at the local level, but we can work through those.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions for staff? No? Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, can I request that maybe Kevin give us a summary of what we talked about tonight, and just maybe, some of this is new, and is it something that you guys feel comfortable that you could do, or do you think you need more time to go through this?
I can summarize all of it.
Okay, thank you.
Well, number one,
Real quick, could I just address a comment from Cameron? And I don't think it got resolved necessarily, but he was commenting on these seem more simplistic and because we're constrained by lot size, and they're meeting the density requirement of the North Fillmore specific plan. We also do want to meet our numbers of houses for the citywide to meet our numbers, and so they have met that density requirement. I did, however, I counted 9 lots that are north of 8,000 square feet. And I hate to throw this out there, but if maybe there was a plan that's a Plan 6, or I know they don't want to hear that, but maybe if there's an opportunity for a Plan 6 or a modified Plan 5 or a modified Plan 4 that would drop in nicely and fit those larger 9 lots without recrafting something, if there's something that could be pulled from Williams Ranch that would plop, maybe the architect can speak to that. Or they could study it and see if that's feasible. But I thought I'd throw that out there as something that we could look at. If the applicant's willing to take, it's going to come down to dollars and investment, so. Yeah.
Appreciate it.
I took very good notes, so I can read those off to you. But your question right off the bat is, do we feel comfortable with the changes that they submitted and proceed with direction from you and proceed forward? I think that's what you're getting at, and the answer is no. We need to look at what they've turned in. Some of the stuff was turned in just before the meeting, so we need to see what they have, and that would be step one. Review what they've submitted. Most likely, it sounds like everything we would agree to, but we need to see all of it in the conditions of approval, and then come back to you. I feel more comfortable doing that. I saw a lot of head nodding to the comments that you planning commissioners have made. You made 23 comments, and I think the applicants agreed with all 23. Let me read them out loud. You'd like to see the architectural elevations plotted. You'd like to do wraparound porches. You've identified those lots. You'd like to provide another color, a new color, not a variation of a white or a tan or a green or whatever, but a new color. You like to see on Plan 4 a deck added. You like the modern style to have a smooth stucco. We'll need to identify what that is. We can do that with the applicant that they would agree with. For the bungalow porch columns, you'd like to see stone work around that. You'd like to see some, the garages further step back or set back. Maybe the applicant's already done that by the stuff that they submitted tonight. You would like to see a varied roof line. Although they're claiming we have a small lot, you'd like to see the varied roof line, so it's not as basic. And we'll take a simple approach to that. Number 9, you'd like to provide, have some lots with houses that can view between houses, see if we can achieve that. For lots 3, 4, and 5, the flag lots, we have a parking issue. Maybe we can come back with you and after we talk with the applicant and see if we can come up with some ideas to correct that. For lot 130, where houses has a view into another house or a lot, maybe we can rotate the house a little bit and get some privacy and open their view. There's a question on ADUs that they need to be assigned to a person before the house is sold. I personally would like to open that up a little bit for the KV product. We allowed houses to be sold, and the ADU was not sold or rented. It was opened. So I would like to open up that discussion with the applicant a little bit and with the city attorney. That'll most likely include my review with the state of California, HCD. The applicant may not know it yet, but we don't have a certified housing element, and we're on our 3rd draft, and this particular property is heavily reviewed by HCD. So your review and questions on in lieu fees and ADUs, they are watching and they're asking me lots of questions. There's a lot of doubts on their side, but I think ADUs, where we allow the house to be sold without the ADU rented, is a good option. The bike path, you just want to make sure the bike paths are connected. Views, especially at 8th Street there, viewing into Sespe Creek, you'd like to see that open. You'd like to provide another color to the garage door, a darker color. I'll get the plan from you, Miguel. Number 16, your concern with hidden lane and how it, because it's a small private lane, but you'd like to provide some form of bike path or public access through there, or to a connection to the bike path. For the open space area, you'd like to see if we can make it a little more functional with a half basketball court, a volleyball court, some type of multi-use. We'll come up with something for you. We'll provide a public art program, that's number 18, some type of public art of some kind. Number 19, you do like the curb extensions. I will look into the street layout, see if we can add some. Yes, the fire lanes are critical, and those have been identified with radius, but maybe we can accommodate you, especially in the public gathering areas. There's a question on porch railing. You're asking, would you just consider porch railing is your request. For where the porches are located, you like to see a gutters, roof gutters placed there. There was a question on street layout with the alignment adjacent to the levee, but I think that's been satisfactorily answered as it's designed. And lastly, this is really coming from city staff. And I've heard you kind of insinuate it. City staff would like to see a construction phasing plan, and we can hone in our conditions of approval a little bit better when public improvements are needed onto which phase, and identify that for you and for the applicant, so we can satisfy for them as well which public improvements need to occur for which phase. So those are 23 items that we can come back with you and address it with the applicant With their corrections, they've already come forward. I didn't list all of their corrections. By the way, they came up with a lot. They're showing some flexibility on their side. So we'll get their corrections and these 23 corrections and have the plan in a completed format for you with a completed set of conditions. ADUs is an open-ended question. While I have the floor, I'd like to just note a concern about in lieu fees. It's not realistic. It's just an academic exercise for nothing. A house costs about $500,000 to construct. We need to collect a minimum of that in order to sell it. If we're looking at collecting only $10,000 per unit as an in lieu fee, it's going to take us forever to construct one house. It's just not realistic. I've never been able to offer this opinion when asked at City Council. It's never been asked of me, but I'm looking at this in our housing element. Other cities are doing it. Some of the fees we looked at, it's astronomically high and it'll kill this project. $210,000 in lieu fee. That's not realistic either. It's an exercise of futility, in my opinion. I haven't been able to give my opinion until just now. The best option is what the applicant is proposing, is ADUs. But they've got to have some flexibility. If you strong arm them to say you must rent it before the sale of a house, it's impossible. It's a difficult situation, and it's not something that the city put onto them, but it's coming through us through the state, and so I share everyone's concerns on how we meet that. But that's my soapbox. I'll get off the soapbox, but I do want to give some flexibility to the developer to try to solve that problem. Thank you.
Kevin, I wanted to add something I forgot in my notes that I just saw today. In the Spanish style, there is shutters on the second story windows, and I think a Juliet window would look a lot better with the railing instead of shutters. So being that the applicant's very flexible and has made a lot of changes, I would like to add that.
We'll add that to the list, in our list, and see what shakes out. I'm not sure how practical some of these are, but we're going to do our best to meet your comments.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Kevin, for that. Nothing else?
I'm good. Check it off.
All right. So, we will open this up for discussion. Anybody?
Is there any public we should see if there's any members from the public.
Is there any public comment before? No? Okay, thank you. So we will open up upon discussion between us.
So I'm in agreement with all those comments that Kevin went through. And given the late turn in of some of the changes and comments from Williams Homes and the lengthy list that we have, I'm leaning towards the recommendation, the first recommendation that we have, where we would we would give staff time to review this and work with the applicant and come back to us with those changes. That's where I'm leaning towards right now. So I'll leave it with that.
I can agree with that. I think it's better to have a more prepared packet, especially since staff hasn't had the opportunity to fully analyze it. Plus, I wouldn't be comfortable adopting resolutions until staff says they're more comfortable with it as well.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. It's great the applicant did make changes prior to the meeting. I would have liked to see the changes occur months ago, but we do appreciate the flexibility. But I too would feel more comfortable seeing some of these changes implemented, worked out with staff, and then brought back to us.
Yeah, apart from the changes being changed, I think we need more time also to review them once they're finalized. So I agree with you and everybody else.
Well, I'll agree also that I think it should be brought back to us before it goes to council. Not saying the council wouldn't, look at all the things, but I think it's our job to review it before it goes to them.
Any other comments, questions, thoughts? Okay.
If there's not, then we can go ahead and close the public hearing, and then there'd be a motion.
Okay, so we will go ahead and close the public hearing at this time. And is there a motion?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and make a motion that we direct staff to reschedule and legally notice the project to a future planning commission meeting once the architectural plans have been adequately revised pursuant to, all the recommendations and that we gave and this new additional information from Williams Homes.
I'll second that motion.
All right, there is a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any noes? Nope, okay, perfect. The motion will pass.
I just want to say thank you guys for being so willing to make changes. I really appreciate it. And I think this is going to be a fantastic product and project for the city. Thank you.
I agree also. Thank you.
All right, we'll go ahead and move on to item number 7 of the business items. There are none, so we'll go ahead and move on to number 8, the reports and communications. I'll go ahead and turn it over to Kevin for planning and community development report.
I'll just update you on some projects. The Bridges subdivisions moving forward. It's just building like on an assembly line. So I think we probably have about 2 more years on that project, maybe 3, depending on the economy and how it works. The RV storage project along Highway 126 across from the mobile home park is under construction. What you see is Building A. That's a storage project and retail project. So what's presented today and what you see under construction is storage only. We're waiting for the retail component. That project will probably go through a modification in order to accommodate the retail component. So we're waiting to hear from the applicant on that. The storage portion's under construction.
Deadline on that they had to meet a certain.
Yeah, they met that by about 1 week before the
They did,
deadline.
okay.
So
That's what I was wondering.
the RV project had a deadline that said that they have 1 year to start construction, and construction was rebar and plumbing and then the forms, and they got that 1 week before the deadline.
Is there any other deadlines moving forward now?
No, it's now it's met that deadline, and it's on a process for completion. Brian is working on Sonic. Sonic is a funded project. We do know that. So the bank has loaned on it. Brian has met with them in pre-construction meetings with the engineer. So knock on wood, it has life, and we'll see where it goes.
To ask a question on that, I wasn't on the commission when this project started. Where is this located?
Sonic is on the north side of Highway 126 by just adjacent and east of De La Rosa Automotive.
Orange Grove.
Okay.
Yep, between Orange Grove and A Street.
Yeah, there's a green screen around it now.
Okay.
It's almost directly opposite Starbucks.
Okay.
Yep.
This side of the freeway.
North side.
Yeah, this side.
Yeah, this side. This side. Yep. Yes, this is north. Yes. On August 25th, I approved a 50-unit low-income project called Fillmore Terrace by People's Self-Help. And I approved it with conditions of approval. It did not go to the Planning Commission, and it didn't go to the City Council. Under the state law, I'm directed to approve it. I'll give you a fully updated review on another time period. The applicant was happy that I approved it, but I approved it with a lot of conditions of approval, and they asked me to reconsider the decision and revise the conditions of approval. So as of 5 o'clock today, those conditions were revised, and it was reconsidered and approved. So there's a 15-day appeal period, and if nobody appeals or anything, the project is then approved. There's a condition of approval that says they need to start with construction within 1 year. And I have not shown you those plans. I haven't shown them to City Council, but I'll email you the plans. And I didn't do that because you don't review them. The project along Mountain View and along Highway 126, that's multicolored by many mansions. They have entered into an agreement with the city to do another project along Santa Clara Street and Mountain View, and we're starting that work. So maybe you'll see that in about 2 years or in about 18 months. It's another low-income project. It'll be of a different design. It won't be multicolored. Right now, we're looking at a Monterey style with courtyards, but we'll see what shakes up there. Brian's processing a big industrial project right now, which is just warehousing, storage. It's a little early to tell what that's going to be yet. If you recall, you approved a project at River Street and Central Avenue called River Gardens. I think it's an 88-unit apartment project. That's in plan check. We're on the tail end of that plan check. But I think it still has a little way to go before we issue a building permit, even though that we're at the very end of plan checking. We have got some things to do, or the developer does, and then that will be under construction. So it'll be a market rate apartment project with some affordability, about 15% affordable. That concludes my presentations on projects. So if you have any questions, let me know.
On the low-income housing that you approved, is there any public outreach or notification or announcement, or is that allowed?
It's allowed, none's occurred.
Okay. Is it, I don't know about
There's-
making a recommendation to City Council to do that?
They
Just so people-
can't. I'm following a state law. It's a 100% affordable project. And it's what's called by right. So if a project complies with our ordinance in terms of zoning, it's allowed by right. You can approve it over the counter. It's a very, we took about 2 years to approve it, so it wasn't quite that easy because they were asking for a density bonus and they are asking for about 12 waivers of our standards. So parking was waived, setbacks, density, and there's a lot of items. What I would like to do, well, we'll put something together, but there was no just as you as a planning commission were not noticed and the city council was not noticed, the public's not noticed either because it's by right. When someone does a room addition in their house, the neighbors aren't noticed. It's by right. And that the state of California says that's how you should view affordable units when it complies with your zoning and general plan.
Understood. And then Red Engine?
Red Engine? Yeah. Well, I have the microphone. Brian, why don't you go ahead and update on Red Engine?
Yeah, they're moving closer and closer to C of O, but they've announced it before, I think a few times, and then it comes and goes. But they've said that they're getting closer at this point. They're achieving a few other minor things, a fire hydrant, their alcohol sales permit with the state. I think the health department's approving their kitchen, things like that. So they're getting wrapped up. They expect to start calling for COO inspections within the next month or so. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Kevin or Brian? No? Okay. We'll move on to 8B, the Planning Commission brief reports. If anyone has anything they would like to share.
I just wanted to, I wasn't able to join you guys at the Planning Commissioners Academy this year. I've gone multiple times in the past, but the winter was just crazy this winter, and I just wasn't able to go. The Planning Commissioner Academy, the next one is coming up already. I mean, here we are in September, so we got to start thinking about the next one. I don't know if the city would have funding for us or not, but the next Planning Commissioner Academy is going to be March 6th through 8th, and it'll be in Long Beach. So I think it was in Orange County. Is that where you guys went?
Yeah.
So it's back in the south again this year at Long Beach. So it's at the Hilton Long Beach. So I don't know when it opens up for registrations or not, but I don't know if the city has budget, but just throwing it out there it's coming up again.
All right, thank you for sharing that. Anybody else have any comments?
Yeah, I have one comment. I attended the hearing on the VCTC on the Sierra Northern Santa Paula branch line about all the rail cars out there. And it was kind of, I don't know, has anybody been out there to see if they've moved them at all? Okay, I'll drive out there and look. But it was kind of disappointing, other than there really wasn't a Q&A time or a way that Sierra Northern could actually answer whether they're going to move the cars or not. Because if you go out there, they're just graffiti like crazy. So that was a little disappointment, but this room was packed. People that wanted to know what was going on with it, so.
Yeah, and to reflect on that, there was several comments on social media from some of the feedback that was given. Some of the feedback they got were they couldn't move the rail cars because they didn't have enough engines to move them. The bridge washed out during the storms. So hopefully, yeah, I feel it and feel bad for the residents back there, because yeah, it's an eyesore. But yeah, and you see a lot of it on social media, what the community thinks about it. Anybody else have any questions? No? Okay. So we will go ahead and adjourn the Planning Commission meeting. We will go ahead and adjourn till our next scheduled meeting on October 18th, 2023 at 6:30 in City Council chambers. Until then, everyone be safe and thank you.